All right, we have more changes unfolding in presidential politics. Changes that have President Donald Trump just surviving a second assassination attempt. 2 full-out hits on his life in the last 8 weeks. It's ramping up. The media had a chance to tone down the rhetoric after what happened on July 13th, but they haven't. Instead, they've ramped it up, airing to the world 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, how Trump is a danger and a threat to democracy. How he's going to be a dictator on day one. Kamala Harris just said so during a presidential debate with 70 million people watching. Now they want us to believe that 1 week later, yesterday, Sunday afternoon, a Trump-hating madman appeared to take those warnings to heart. Luckily, he failed thanks to Secret Service, but there are odd things about what happened. Like who this man really is, who he's connected to, how he even got a hold of Trump's schedule. Nobody knew Trump was playing golf on Sunday. And what it could mean that this man at the moment is still alive and being held by authorities. Ron DeSantis needs to get off his ass and keep this man in protective custody. Get him back from the feds. The longer he's alive in Florida state custody, the higher likelihood we learn what really happened here. But before we get started, thank you for liking and sharing these videos. It really helps out the channel. And consider subscribing so you don't miss these regular updates. So not long after Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald, on camera by the way, in front of dozens of witnesses inside the Dallas police headquarters of all places, a lot of Americans began questioning the Kennedy assassination. It was, after all, a pretty remarkable sequence of events. You have a lone gunman murdering the President of the United States. Then within 48 hours, that same lone gunman shouting to reporters, "I'm just a patsy. I am just a patsy," he said, is then murdered by another mad gunman who turns out to be a hitman for the mob. This bizarre series of events the U.S. government insisted was all random, not suspicious, they said, all while Lee Harvey Oswald was screaming that he's been set up. Then a year after JFK's assassination, the Johnson White House released something called the Warren Commission Report, a complete whitewashing of what really happened. In it, they concluded that they don't know the motives, they said. That the motives for both killings are still unknown. Both Lee Harvey Oswald and Jack Ruby, they said, had acted on their own volition. There was no conspiracy. Well, 50 years later, we learn that the CIA purposefully withheld information about their relationship with Lee Harvey Oswald. Yes, it turns out, in the most recent dump of JFK documents, Lee Harvey Oswald worked for our own CIA. Imagine that. Imagine learning that at the time, that the man who assassinated the sitting president was actually a contractor to the CIA. It would have raised a whole ton of questions, right? Well, fast forward to present day, we have a remarkably similar situation, or at least a similar character in Ryan Ruth, as we did in Lee Harvey Oswald, a man who somehow was on the ground inside Ukraine, inside Kyiv, in the days following Russia's initial invasion, working as a recruiter for the Ukrainian military, finding foreign mercs to sign up for the cause. Watch.
Course, 58-year-old Ryan Wesley Routh. According to Josh's sources, authorities are working to obtain search warrants on various social media accounts believed to be associated with him. Some of these images that you're looking at to your screen here, these are images that our investigative unit has been able to cull from his various social media accounts that are available online. And what the FBI is also aware of are some of his online claims about foreign travel. And I want to zero in on something here, Anderson. The pictures that you're seeing come from a GoFundMe account. And on that account, Routh claims that he went to Kyiv in 2022. He was raising money to try to support his travel. So he claims that he is staying with people aligned with the military, that he's donating military devices to some of the fighters in Ukraine.
So how did this apparently petty criminal from North Carolina make his way into the power center of the war? miraculously forming the right connections within days in a foreign country, a country in the middle of a war, of an invasion, blending right in, falling in line, and appearing to be embraced by the Ukrainian military. What's even stranger is how corporate media used Ryan Ruth as their mouthpiece on the ground in Ukraine. Look at all these different quotes from mainstream media outlets quoting Ryan Ruth in their publications. Look at this. New York Times article, for instance. They wrote, quote, "With Legion growth stalling, Ryan Ruth, a former construction worker from Greensboro, North Carolina, is seeking recruits from among Afghan soldiers who fled the Taliban." Mr. Ruth, they said, who spent several months in Ukraine last year, said he planned to move them, in some cases illegally, from Pakistan and Iran to Ukraine. He said dozens had expressed interest, quoting him saying, "We can probably purchase some passports through Pakistan since it's such a corrupt country," unquote. Like, what? He's talking openly in the New York Times about coordinating Afghan soldiers, ex-Taliban, to fight for the cause. Talking about securing them passports from Pakistan. Yes, this is your typical North Carolina construction worker, folks. Nothing to see here. Edward Snowden, former CIA contractor and whistleblower, pointed out on X last night the glaring inconsistencies with Ryan Ruth being a lone wolf. Writing this, "We know little so far, but with alleged Trump shooters' personal and public participation in military activity in Ukraine, it's hard to imagine this White House's agencies can claim zero contact, quote-unquote clean hands, something of an Oswald vibe. Congress should get answers." Then we have the most concerning and obvious question: how is it possible this man, again, this low-level petty criminal they're telling us, ascertained where and when Trump would be on Sunday? Secret Service said during the press conference yesterday, nobody knew the president would be playing golf. Nobody knew where he would be, that he would even be in Florida. At the moment, that's a mystery. How he could have possibly learned this information. Something even CNN of all outlets is asking this question. Watch.
Yeah, Mr. Marino, let me lean on that, because add into exactly what the chief was laying out about questions about planning. Also this fact that Trump's golf game on Sunday, it was a last-minute addition to his schedule, sources say. He had no public events planned. What does that say about pre-planning, lack thereof, or that how long he was there, or if there was some element of luck for this man, not for obviously Secret Service and President Trump? How do you add all that together?
And don't be fooled when we begin hearing them explain this away. This is too big a red flag to let them allow to just hang out there. So clearly, this man is either the most capable lone wolf actor on the planet, or he's not a lone wolf at all, and he had help. So former Assistant FBI Director Chris Swecker was just interviewed this morning on Fox News and said the would-be Trump assassin, Ryan Ruth, may have had inside information on Trump's schedule. Where in the world did he obtain that inside information? Who gave it to him? Did someone else have knowledge about what Ryan Ruth was up to? If they did, it had to be someone or multiple someones with access to this inside information. Watch.
Yeah, I think maybe the increased scrutiny of the Secret Service and the embarrassment from the last assassination attempt may have saved his life, because they were proactive this time. They didn't hesitate, and they took the shot. So, you know, that's the positive thing here. I want to know how that person knew to be there at that golf hole at that time that day. He's either surveilling Donald Trump, or he received some inside information. That's pretty sinister if that's the case, because that implicates a third party, either wittingly or unwittingly.
Which is why it's critical to have local and state authorities lead up this investigation, at least have their chance to run their own investigation before turning this guy over to the feds. We saw in recent years how quickly high-priority detainees are eliminated in federal custody or just disappear into the bowels of the federal system. A federal prosecutor, just swoops in, has them sign a plea, and then that's the end of it. No more investigations. Questions are never answered. We still don't have questions about or answers about what happened 2 months ago during the first attempt on Trump. And unfortunately, Florida already handed this guy over. All right, that wraps up this episode. Like, subscribe. We'll see you next time.